We're live. We did it. I don't know what's happening to my... There we go. Okay. My video was in a state, but I think that I've solved it. Okay, hello and welcome to the final Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I cannot say the Falcon and the Winter Soldier without like singing it in the TikTok audio that sings it to the tune of the WandaVision song. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Anyway, I enjoy that more than I enjoyed this episode. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Ma'am.
Sorry. Okay, we're here to talk about the finale. One world, one people. And it's my turn to do this final synopsis. So, we finally get to see what was in the box, and the Wakandans made Sam a shiny, new, winged Captain America suit. I had thought it was just wings. I didn't realize it was going to be the whole, the cap suit. I thought they were just, like, replacing his wings for him. But anyway, Sam and Bucky go to New York to stop the Flag Smashers. Sharon and John Walker are there, too. Bucky hops on a call with Carly, which is obviously a distraction while the Flag Smashers kidnap all the GRC people who are about to vote on the border thing. Many combinations of Sam, Bucky, and Walker fight with the Flag Smashers for roughly half the episode. Like, I was trying to write this plot synopsis and it's just like a lot of like fights that don't really mean anything. We do, of course, have to see Sam fly, so he breaks off to do a cool rescue of some hostages in a helicopter because conveniently one of the hostages is a helicopter pilot.
They made him wings. They made him wings. They cannot just not wing.
Yeah, I mean, I do love when you have to like rescue a helicopter full of hostages when one of them is also a helicopter pilot. That's great. I love that.
Amazing.
It's really helpful. What else happened? Carly is full murderer now, and she tells her team about how their lives don't matter, and then she tells a super pissed off Walker about how his friend's life didn't matter. Just like repeatedly, Carly being like, people don't matter, even though that was like her whole, you know, whatever, doesn't matter. Hats off to this actress doing her absolute best. But truly, I have no fucking character who Carly is meant to be. Speaking of characters making choices that I don't really understand, Walker eventually decides, for no clear reason, that he's gonna focus on rescuing people rather than his vengeance. I will say, I watched this in like fits and starts, so like I didn't actually sit down and watch it uninterrupted. So maybe some of the things that didn't make sense to me really do make sense to anybody who watched it all for like straight through. Whatever.
I mean, it made the kind of sense of like, obviously, like a decision happened in his head. Not one that I was privy to, but he had a moment of like, oh, I will do this. And I was like, okay.
All right, that's where you're at now.
Sure.
He tries to like rescue the truck full of GRC hostages. He doesn't quite succeed, but Sam returns from the helicopter side quest just in time to be the one to actually save the day. Lots of people like see this happen and record it from a distance that honestly also doesn't make sense to me. Like, it looks like the space where they all are is like remote, is like isolated and there's nobody there. So I don't really understand the proximity of this crowd that is like watching Sam save the day near enough that they can tell that it's Sam. Anyway, doesn't matter. Carly goes to meet the nothing matters is the summary of my plot synopsis.
That is what I'm getting when you're like, nothing, this doesn't matter, that doesn't matter, nothing matters.
Nothing matters. Carly goes to meet the power broker, and our worst fears are confirmed because the power broker is in fact Sharon Carter. Boo! The French assassin also emerges from the shadows because apparently Sharon hired him too in order to like hired him to spy on Carly, but he didn't know that she was the power broker, and so he tries to like get himself a bigger payday because he's like, oh, I'll tell everybody who you are. But she has a gun in her hand, so she just shoots him immediately. But when she's murdering him, Carly shoots Sharon. Anyway, Sam shows up and fights with Carly for a while, but mostly like, I don't know, trying to just like make her stop. She does a lot of punching, like telling him to fight back. And eventually she like knocks him out and tells him to get down or to stay down. It's sort of like a callback to Steve. And Sam says no. And then they fight some more until it seems like Carly is maybe going to shoot Sam. So Sharon shoots her first, in like a way that it makes it seem like she's shooting Carly to save Sam, but like obviously she's really just shooting Carly because she knows.
Right.
Sam carries Carly's body out to where all the people are and gives an unnecessarily long speech to the GRC people, and also like the crowd. But the GRC people, these like very powerful politicians, just like let Sam talk forever with a bunch of news cameras on him. Like nobody, they don't
There's
stop
not
him.
a PR person in sight to be like, this is a terrible idea.
We need to like make this man stop telling us how much we suck. But anyway, he talks about how the GRC's plan is bad because they forgot what it was like to be helpless, I guess. Honestly, like, it's not just that the speech is absurdly long and like completely implausible that everybody's letting it happen. It's also just like convoluted and messy. Which makes it the perfect metaphor and thesis statement for this show. Anyway, we gotta wrap this up. So, the remaining super soldier flag smashers get arrested, but their vehicle is ultimately blown up by Zemo's butler, neatly taking care of all of the super soldier randos that the show introduced. They are no more. Super soldiers are all named identifiable characters. Walker gets his U.S. agent rebrand from Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Sam goes to bother Isaiah Bradley some more and takes him to the Smithsonian to show him that he got added to the Captain America exhibit. We cut to Sam's family boat where he and Bucky are just having a grand time with the whole neighborhood, and the episode ends with them laughing into the sunset. Until a mid-credit scene shows Sharon getting her pardon and her old job back, and then making a phone call so that we know she's going to use that job to do crime. That's it.
I'm so mad. No, sorry. We keep doing this. You gotta ask me the question first.
Sorry. I'm looking at the chat because I couldn't see the chat while I was sharing everything. Thank you, Miriam, for supporting my recreation of the TikTok sound. We all could have just sat here together and like sang the TikTok sound to each other. Would have been great. Would have been a solid use of our hour. Walking it straight through didn't help. Walker's rapid onset good guy transformation was jarring. Okay, we'll revisit all of this. You're right. We should get to the question. So, did you like it?
I didn't. I don't feel like I have any very different feelings about this thing than I have about like the entire season. So, like, portions of it were fine. Mostly it was disappointing. That's what I've come to realize. The season as a whole for me was just a little bit of a letdown. There were good parts. There were a lot of bad parts. So I feel bad because it's still a Marvel thing and I want to like it. That's the primary feeling, is that I want to like it, but I don't think that this was good. So what's the math on that? Did I like it or not?
I also feel I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Yes.
That's sort of where I'm at, my like loose answer to this question. Like, part of the reason why we start with this is as a way of like forcing everybody into the yes no binary. Like, you gotta at least like just do this. And I also am like, I don't know. I feel like my answer to this final episode has to be no, though. I did not like this episode. I'm that sort of like middling territory of like I liked some things is reserved for my feelings about like the show as a whole. And there are a couple, like very few things in this episode that I did like, but this was probably my least favorite episode of the season. If I'm being perfectly honest, this.
Yeah, I think
really did not enjoy this
a lot
episode.
of the things that I think that this episode sort of like culminated and brought together a lot of the things that we were having issues with anyways. So this was never going to fix everything that we had a problem with. And what it actually did, like, it felt like it was like, remember all these things you have a problem with? And I was like, oh, I do. So you're right. I didn't like it.
I'm glad we were able to like get there first rather than having the whole conversation and then you being like, wait, no, I didn't like it. Because yeah, I don't even know where to start.
Let's start where we're maddest and go down.
Okay, okay. For a brief moment, I was like, "Wait, what? Where are we?" I was like, "How do I pick one?" But no, obviously, there's a clear answer, and that's Sharon. So,
Yes. We had, okay, here's like the there's like the story stuff that we're mad at. But the thing that makes me like mad about my watching experience is that in the show we had like no predictions, right? Like we were just kind of along for the ride. And so for the one thing that was kind of like, wait, is Sharon going to be the power broker? And that was kind of like the one big prediction. And we were like, we would hate that. We would be so mad if that were true. And then it's the thing that was true. So I hate it for in-story reasons, but I also hate that that was like kind of my viewing experience too.
yes, yeah. This is like the the rare example of like the show sort of telegraphed something and I was not happy. I mean, like this is the thing we talk about all the time that like how you sort of set up a reveal for it to be satisfying, and
Right?
that they set it up in such a way that this wasn't some like big shocking twist. They did lay the groundwork within this show for that to be like, yep, that's sure. But it is just like broadly infuriating for larger MCU reasons. Like the reason,
Yes.
like it's within the context of this show, it's fine because like they set it up, like it's there. I just cannot get over like the bigger MCU picture of who this character was when she was introduced. Her role in like helping to take down Hydra when Hydra infiltrated Shield, and like all of that stuff, to say nothing of the fact that her like villain origin story is deeply rooted in like Steve just forgetting about her and not giving a shit
Yes.
about her.
Yes.
Like there are just so many pieces of this that are like larger MCU bad, and then like there's like my Peggy Carter feelings. The fact that they make a point in that post credit the credit scene of like calling her Agent Carter, it's just
Yes.
like real twist of the knife there. Did not like it. Was not
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. I mean, and this is like something we've talked about like multiple episodes and at length, like the reasons why this would not like be satisfying and this it would make us mad. And so like
Mm-hmm.
when we got there finally, it was, oh man, it was just so bad. And I cannot get over the like Steve Rogers would never of it all. I cannot get over it.
Yeah. Uh, this is also actually a really good point, that I didn't even think about. But Miriam was like so infuriating because like Nemo knew of the power broker or Zemo knew from the pre-prison times, presumably. So was she the power broker when she was stopping Hydra? Which terrible, terrible if true. Yeah,
Right.
there's no level on which this isn't like disappointing and annoying, and I hate it. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. That's really all there is to say about it, but I feel like I'm done talking about it, but I have not finished conveying how much I hate it, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I'm done in that like I don't have any new thoughts to add, but I'm not done in that I'm like mad about it and can keep
Mhm.
repeating
Yes,
repeating the
yes.
same points for the duration of this hour. Like could spend
Right.
this whole hour on this
It like
topic.
going in between the TikTok Falcon and the Winter Soldier song, and then just like in between those saying how much we hate the Sharon thing.
No, both at the same time. You're talking about Sharon,
Oh,
and
oh,
I'll do
okay.
uh,
We hate it.
um
Um,
Yeah, so that's the thing that we hate the most, and truly, I can find nothing redeeming about this decision. Like, it's just it's bad. It's bad all around. I don't love it.
Into like okay, on that like, okay, is there anything redeeming? Because we had also talked about like, ooh, if she's a double agent, but it is bad enough now at this point, and I might, down the line have to eat my words, but projecting forward, there's no way that they could go from here into any other story of like, oh, she was a double agent that would feel satisfying to me. It has gone on long enough and it reached this point that I'm like over it. I don't even want you to take it back. I don't even want you to tell me she's not the power broker. You did it and I'm done.
It would be a similar sort of thing to like there are people that are suggesting like I saw like fan theories that to the Quicksilver thing in WandaVision that like maybe he still is actually Quicksilver and that like he was the missing person or whatever that incited the whole like the FBI looking into it in the first place. And there's a way
Right.
that like in a big picture sort of way, like if that happens, like I wouldn't be like sure, great, cool. Like that I would appreciate it in wherever that would appear, but it wouldn't change the way that I felt about it in the context of that thing. Only
Right.
that happened to be that was an itty bitty piece of that thing, which was
Right.
otherwise amazing. This is a larger piece of a thing that is otherwise meh.
Not
Uh,
great.
so there's like less, but it's a similar sort of thing where even if they do manage to sort of come back on it and be like, oh, she was a double agent the whole time, it doesn't really change the way that I feel about it in the confines of this thing. In the confines of
Yeah.
this thing, this is the way that they sold it to us, and like the whole thing was just it was part of the problem with the whole series, and this is I don't know I think maybe the thing number two on my list is like big picture. The whole series just was trying to do too many things. There are too many things that are here that are like obviously just set up for something else, and none of that it like wasn't gracefully handled. The stuff that was set up
No.
for something else, it was too much. And like thinking about the Sam's sort of like big unnecessarily long speech, like there are things that the Sam stuff in this final episode is super heavy-handed, and like that's fine. I feel like they could have been doing more like the problem with that is that they spent so much time sort of like jam packing all of these episodes with overly complicated threads that didn't have satisfying payoffs. And so like when you sort of come back to this finale and like lean back into big superhero tropey stuff, it's just like, well, you were trying to tell us that this was like a spy show. Like that's the thing that you were doing.
Yeah.
And then now we're doing like big superhero tropey things. And like I'm cool with big superhero tropey things. Like that's I don't object to that. It's just that that is not the thing that we had been doing. And it's like a disappointing conclusion to we're trying to do this complicated spy story.
Right. Yeah. So, and we had been talking about sort of like, the big things here, the plot messiness of it all and the ways that they were trying to do so much. And also, but in all of that too much, there was also a lot of ways they could have trimmed the fat, right? There was so much
Mm-hmm.
filler in areas of it. And so when you get here and things are that convenient and that heavy-handed and that tropey, it makes the filler stuff stand out even so much more in my head. Like, why did we have all of these like moments where we were trying to just kind of drag it out if your whole thing is a big speech at the end? Like, I don't understand, like, I don't know, the where the need to like sort of like snail pace it for us and hand feed it to us for so long culminates in what this episode gave us. So it did not match. This did not match the rest of the story that it appeared they were trying to tell us.
Mm-hmm. Yes. uh, what next?
So I mean, we're on the idea of this, like, the heavy-handedness and the tropiness of this episode. So this is ultimately, we were talking about Sam's journey to becoming Captain America. Very clearly at the end, it says Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So did you like, apart from the tropiness and what it says with like the larger show, like those superhero moments? like, the wings and the fighting and the I am Captain America, and like where he ends up in sort of his journey to being not only Captain America, but a black man who is Captain America.
In general, yes, like it is hard to parse my feelings in a way that is that granular, right? Because I'm like I was
Right.
so frustrated with so many other things. um but like, yeah, sure, if there was like a supercut of just those things, just like a 4 minute 3 4 minute YouTube video that is just those little beats and moments, I probably would. The inevitable fan video, I'm sure I could watch that and be like, oh, Sam. Because like, yes, I did. I have very much wanted to see like Sam take up like the title, and like that's the whole thing. And there were some of those moments that were, yeah, yes, where there were a couple moments like that in the episode where, in spite of how not a good time I was having, I found myself happy in spite of myself. And it was basically always related to Sam, where I'm like, oh, yeah, Sam.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think too that like it's so frustrating in much the same way that it's hard to like sort of like parse the feelings out that way. There were also things that were frustrating because when I had those moments of where I was like, "Oh, Sam," it was like highlighting the potential as well of like, "Oh, okay, here's the potential of what could have been happening." So yeah, that the story, the idea of like, this black man taking up the mantle, there were certain things that were like even said in this episode that I was like, okay, like, his little like moment where he's saying, we built this country, so how can I not be expected to fight for it? Like that felt like a good progression of ultimately the message that I think that they wanted to send. So I
Hmm.
also had moments where I was like, ah, I see
I
the
did.
glimmer of hope of like what could have been.
Uh-huh.
But then you get literally, Nicole and I don't tend to like chat too much about the episode like throughout the day, but today we were sending messages back and forth, and primarily we had a ongoing conversation during the extended monologue that he had at the end. So things like that, then I was like, oh, I hate this. So it is very difficult to parse out like what I liked and what I didn't like, but like that moment was one, and some of the choreography with the wings and the shield were super
Yes,
cool. So that was
yes,
cool.
yes. All of his like cool, like big fight choreo with the shield was very very fun. I do, however, while we are talking about things that we like, I do want to take a moment because I also have this grievance that Miriam raises in the chat. I do find it mildly amusing that Sam's costume ends at his temples and the top of his head is just unprotected, ventilated. Like, I do not understand what is happening with this like neck head. Like, I don't. I don't get what we're doing there, like why any of this is like this. Like, I assume that they are like reluctant to cover his head because they don't like too much, because the whole thing is like him being Black Captain America. But like, there had to be a better way. There had to be a better way than this. Miriam goes on to point out that his ears are sticking out. I will say every good guy's ears are always sticking out. This is to that thread that I mentioned last week about like bad guy, like the one of the things about Walker's like that makes his face so unsettling is the way that it's like pinned down. You can Evans's ears are also sticking out. So it's not so much the ears sticking out, but like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I get that he has his Falcon goggles. Cool, keep your little Falcon goggles, but everything like this whole from the neck up situation, that doesn't need to be there. I would get rid of all
I,
of it.
I had a moment where when I first saw his costume that I was like, "Oh no, I don't like it." That was my reaction, and so again, I did like the wings and the shield combo stuff, so it was a little bit better. But the costume design itself wasn't for me, so it made me think about that thread also, and just like how they were breaking down the very purposeful sort of like costume design on Fake Cap. But
Uh-huh.
then I was like, maybe I just don't like the costume design because it's like two for two here that it ain't for me. So maybe he
Uh-huh.
did it on purpose, but also I don't like it. So
I realized while I was explaining all of that that I could have been pulling it up. But anyway, I yes, yeah, there are some choices that they make that I don't. um yeah. Fake Cap though, like, I don't like his costume and I don't like him,
yes.
so that like that's the thing, like, it's I don't like his costume for reasons that like, if you
I don't know. Yeah. I I don't like it. Oh, like the like jowly part too? Oh, yeah. Yes.
I I
Mm,
don't like it. In
yeah.
conclusion.
In conclusion, much like a lot of the season, I don't like it. Um, okay,
Oh,
kind
they
of,
couldn't. The audio was gone during all of that.
oh my
uh,
gosh.
Amazing.
Well, she was just circling, Sam's face, but, most of it was, "I don't like it. I don't
Yeah.
like it. I
Yeah, I moved a lot of
don't."
saying I don't like it, and explaining that it doesn't make sense to like what like the purpose of that little Under Armour thing. Like I like that's that I don't what is it doing? What is it doing? What is it protecting? What's going
Yeah.
on?
A lot of confusion, a lot of, "I don't like it."
Don't like it.
Um, I was saying too, as on this topic of, well, it's not really a transition from I don't like it because I haven't really processed my feelings, but the like other major part of this is Bucky.
Hmm.
So, how did you feel his story ended? Did it? Was there a conclusion here?
I mean, it was fine. Like I feel like the last like really his conversation with Sam in the last episode was like the last
Yes.
particular like satisfying bit in his. I don't know. He was just kind of there is in this episode. Like I don't have any real feelings. He was there.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, they tried to give him like the closure. He finally went to go visit the dad of the kid and he crossed the name off his list, but it felt so underwhelming in the grand scheme of things. Um, I complained about like Sam not feeling like main character enough, and now I got here and I'm like, they just Bucky doesn't feel he's the other part of this thing
He's
that you made.
also right. I know at
Yes.
the end we changed it to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, but there's still and the Winter Soldier. So like I'm gonna where was he? Where and it's not even the fact that like he felt less main charactery. That in and of itself doesn't bother me quite as much. Like it would have bothered me regardless. But the whole season has been sort of doing this thing where they kind of like vacillate between who is kind of like priority, and I don't mind the idea that this one is fundamentally a Sam episode because this is like the transition, and this whole thing is apparently a prequel to Cap 4. So
Yeah,
like we're heading into Bucky's gonna go back to being a sidekick. He's no longer he's no longer the main character. And like the fact that his story does end in a quieter way also makes sense. Like it tracks with the journey that they sent this character on. It just didn't feel satisfying in the context of this episode, which again, like
right.
75% of this episode was like big fight set pieces. And like I think it makes perfect sense and like fits with the whatever redemption journey that he's going on, that like he tells the old man the truth, and it's not like, oh, I told him the truth and now we're still besties, but like it is this sort of like this is how making amends works. Like you do your best, but like nobody owes you that forgiveness and whatever.
Right. Right.
But that moment, I don't really feel like they did enough to sit with it. And like it just felt it was weirdly placed in this episode, I guess, is my feeling on that.
Yes. I agree. It was a little disappointing. I just was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's how we'll end." Uh, they had a weird moment with him too, and this just again, it's like all tied together. I think to some of this like pacing and plotting stuff. But that moment at the end where the car was hanging and Bucky's just looking at it for an extended period of time, and I was just like,
Is he
I
gonna
mean, I
do
know
something?
I understand he can't like catch it, but can he? I don't know. It was just like this extended moment. He's just like looking at it, and I was like, okay, I guess.
Yup.
Okay, I guess is also a big time mood for watching this whole episode.
Okay, I guess. Okay, I guess. Nothing matters. That was my experience watching this final episode. What else? I'm going back through our like bullet lists from earlier episodes. The random reappearance of Zemo.
I'm so disappointed. Here's the thing: the whole season 2, we've been like struggle bussing to really stretch out an hour of feelings here, right? And so now that we've come to the end, I'm so disappointed. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
okay, random appearance of Zemo. I don't care, honestly. Like, whatever. At this point, sure.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, that's correct. Nothing more on that. Blip poli sci. I don't even. I'm just mad.
Yeah. Okay. Wait.
I'm just mad.
The Carly stuff was so freaking weird.
Okay. Yes.
So it is the absolute, like, the weirdness of where they went with her character, the unevenness of how they developed her, but also at the end I was just sitting there going, what was her plan? What was the plan? Like, these senators are voting, so you're going to kill them, and you think that's going to do what? Exactly. I don't understand.
Yes, also, I also have no fucking clue what Carly's plan was. Like, okay, you get rid of them, and then what? Like, it's they're representatives. I mean, it's not exactly clear to me what the GRC is, but one assumes that they are representatives and thus can be replaced.
Correct.
I just, in much the same way that Carly finds her own assistants entirely replaceable. You know,
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand what her whole thing was, and it's so frustrating because of like the way that they set this character up and like the introduction of her whole thing, only to end in this just like this big mess. She was introduced as like such a compelling like villain, and I don't even mind so much the fact that her plan involves so much like murder. I mean, I get it, like that's really the only way that you get to making her a villain.
Right.
Fine, but this wasn't even like there was no point to the murders. Like there was no
Yes, there wasn't like a thing where yeah, the plan was bad. And not that we're going to sit here and be like any plan with like murder is like a genius plan, but this one didn't follow logic. And so it's even harder.
Zemo's when in his movie, Zemo's plan with murder made sense. Like he had a logical. Yes, I understood. I mean, he also had he had the opposite problem, which is that he had a whole deal that didn't make sense to me. But his plan tracked. I understood where he was going with the murder of the King of Wakanda. Like that all, I got it. I get it. I got what his deal was. Carly, the murders didn't track. I don't understand. Even the blowing up of the GRC building, which was like, okay, you overstepped, and we all know you overstepped. This episode is where I was really just like, I do not understand what you are doing and how any of this is in service of your plan. Maybe we're supposed to infer that you've just like gone off the rails here in pursuit of the mission or whatever, but if that's the case, the show didn't sell me on that.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Like, and to this point, like there are a lot of things, dots that we can connect as the audience or infer. So when we're saying like I don't get it, it's not that we couldn't sit here and fill it in. It's that fundamentally, I feel like the show did a bad job telling
Yes.
me, what was going on or what these people were feeling or what I was supposed to feel. Like I shouldn't have to sit here and like, for an hour after I watched the episode, try to connect all of these dots and like read all of these motivations into the character. That's your job, show. Like
Uh-huh.
and you failed.
And the thing is that if they hadn't included so much of the other like extraneous shit setting up future the setup stuff, I feel like they could have given that the space and time. Like if you cut out all of the power
Magic.
broker bullshit,
Magic board. Yep.
yes, you just axe all of that and like you give that space back to the development of the Flag Smashers stuff. You could get there, and I am willing to forgive a fair amount in terms of villain characters, you know, villains be villainous, I get it. Like there is a certain level at which I am willing to just sort of accept that, okay, they're just like that's the direction that we're veering off. This went farther. They overstepped the bounds of what I am
Yes.
willing to allow.
Okay, here's the thing. This is where the show started. It gives us a like lawful good Sam who's not sure he wants to be a hero for a lot of different reasons. It gives us like this, not necessarily morally gray, but it gave us like a gray Bucky, right? Who's got this really bad past, but is trying to figure out how to rectify that and be a good hero. It
Mm-hmm.
gives us Fake Cap and Carly, who are both these like morally gray villains. And so it sets up all of this complexity, like we said, where all of these people aren't your mustache twirling sort of villains. All of these people have shades of gray and decisions that they're trying to make. And then you get to the last episode, and Sam's like, "I'm Captain America," and Bucky's like, "Cheese, therapy worked," and Carly's just like, "Shoot them all." And Captain and Fake Cap, who knows what he's doing? He's like over there swinging wildly on whether he's good or bad. And so it's like, you did this for what? Like
Uh-huh.
you started me back in the gray in episode 1 for what? To give me all this black and white here in the final episode? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. And if the rest of it had been like tropier, then fine, like you can do this.
Yes.
But
Right.
this is not what the first 5 episodes were leading me towards.
Yeah.
So it was just really disappointing,
Yeah.
and I just don't even have that much to say about it. Like it's rare. I feel like I this is the thing that we say all the time when we're getting ready for podcast episodes, that there are pieces of media that we decide we're going to do a podcast episode on, and then we'll finish like reading it or watching the thing and be like, I don't really have that much to say about it. And then like we talk for an hour and a half, and like I have to like the episode has to be trimmed down considerably. Um
Right. This is
this
not one of those instances. I legitimately have nothing to say.
Yes. I appreciate this point, the trope thing. Tropes have accountability. That yes. I mostly keep saying the reason I keep bringing it up is mostly because this is another like a common theme of ours, is the ways in which people throw around like tropes or talk about that as like an
Bad.
intrinsically bad thing,
Right.
which it is not. And like you can, I don't even think that something inherently formulaic is inherently bad. Like I think that a lot of the stuff that I think that there are a number of things that people complain about in like MCU properties where like the story is too simple, where I'm like, no, but that's what they were trying to tell you, was a simple
Right.
that was the goal. But this is, so I'm referring back to that mostly to like emphasize that my problem with it isn't those things. Like it isn't
Yes.
the fact that like this finale episode of, like good guys, bad guys, like fine. I'm cool with that as a like superhero thing. That's just not what I had spent 5 hours watching
Right.
before this episode.
And that point about, like, the story that you're trying to, like, if you're trying to tell like a simple sort of story, you can do that really effectively. And so in the case here, I honestly truly don't even know what kind of story they were trying to tell us. I mean, it was, yeah, I'm not sure. I honestly don't know. And so that speaks to how effectively they told us any story, which at the end of the day, yes, it is not very effective at all.
Yep. Man, this is our somebody pointed out the 10th our SnarkSquad's 10th birthday was yesterday. What a bummer that this is our like our birthday live stream. Just being like, this show was bad. I'm disappointed. But it wasn't even bad in like a fun way.
No,
Like
no,
again, we love to talk about bad things too, where like I can like I'm not I don't even enjoy complaining about it. That's not fun either.
no. Because I mean, we're complaining about it because we're like sitting here and racking our brains for things to like really talk about. But the major thing here is, like, I don't care. I don't have enough feelings for this. I would like to like just stop and like walk away. It was a thing. So those are not fun. I like to talk about the things that I actively like dislike and I want to pick it apart. This one I'm just gonna like whatever. It is what it is.
I love people are submitting. There's some disagreement about what is the actual worst part of this episode. As much as I hate the Sharon stuff, I think the half redemption of John in this episode is the most frustrating thing about the series. I mean, look, there's a lot of things that you can pick. I stand by Sharon, but this is a solid entry. Solid entry.
I stand by Sharon because there's a longer history there, and I just met Fake Cap, and so whatever. But it was definitely a frustrating choice for them to, and okay, it is not even the half redemption; it is the half redemption in a single episode. Like
Yes.
oh, like you brought us so far with this man, and in one episode you're gonna be like, psych, he's kind of good.
And it was also frustrating too because prior to this episode, like we've been building to this point of me being extremely confused by who the fuck Carly is even supposed to be for a couple episodes now. Like
Yes,
they've been losing
yes,
the thread with Carly for a bit. The
yes.
thing about Walker is that prior to this episode, even though I didn't like, I'm like, oh, like this, I do not like this man. It like upsets me in all of the ways that it's trying to. Like I understood the existence of that man. Like that man made sense to me. He had like his history and like his motivations, his decisions. Broadly speaking, that man made sense to me. Then this episode, I was like, actually, he no longer makes sense to me.
Yes.
So,
In the grand scheme of things too, I understand him kind of being and I think he is in the comics as well. Like he kind of goes back and forth whether he's hero or foe,
right.
and I can understand that for him as well. He's got like, I don't even want to say good intentions, but he's got this like classically, traditionally heroic background,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very convinced that what he is doing is right. So you can see that kind of going back and forth. I totally get that. Again, it was the pacing of the story here where they don't give us like they gave us that traditionally heroic background and they gave us going bad. And then
Uh-huh.
in the last episode they're like, and and this part. And I
And
was
now
just like,
he's
ooh, yeah.
good, but actually he's like getting a makeover from like obvious like
Right.
Julie, like
It was
she's
too much.
like what are we doing? Like what's going on with all of that? Um I just
Yeah.
yeah.
I yeah. A little like this is like such a like I don't know, nitpick or like small moment, but when he comes in and he says the thing about Lamar's life mattering, of all the heavy-handed things to have like the one like the villainous white dude saying that the black guy's life mattered and then the other villain saying his life didn't matter. I'm like, in this economy, I can't. I don't want it. I'm tired.
Yes. Uh oh
I'm
man.
tired.
Yeah, pretty disappointing. What a way to go out. Like what a way to wrap this.
Yeah.
I'm like it's such a bummer because I had been super I mean like I had been kind of ambivalent about this thing in the first place, but like we finished WandaVision and I was like Okay, let's go, Marvel. Like, I'm ready. Finish WandaVision, and then like we both did our whole like full MCU rewatches, whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
Really went all in on
Yeah.
this, and then this is what they did to us.
We were primed and ready to like pretty much anything that they gave us,
Yes,
honestly.
and
Like we
we
were
you could
ready.
watch us for weeks trying.
I'm trying to like this. How many episodes in was it before I was like, oh, like I don't like this?
So, in spite of that, though, I
Yeah.
remain optimistic about Loki. I'm still,
Yes. Yeah.
I continue, I can, I feel like they're gonna have to burn me a lot of times at this
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, for
point.
sure. Like in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of the MCU, like this doesn't change my feelings about
Yeah. Okay.
any
Yeah.
of that. This doesn't make me, less excited to watch anything else. Like I'm still gonna watch Captain America 4. Like I think that this was a bad attempt at the thing that they're doing now, like the TV show thing.
Uh-huh.
But apart from the Sharon thing, there were pieces of storytelling here that done right, I would be interested in.
Right.
And like in the context of like a shortened, really tight movie would be interesting over the span of the last 6 episodes. Too much, not good storytelling, not interested, but like I'll give you another chance.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yes, yeah. And some of those things are pieces that it's like, okay, I don't like how we got there, but fine. I will accept in future incarnations that we embrace that these are the pieces now, that this is the new sandbox, the new state of the sandbox.
Right.
Fine. Disappointing chapter. I still, okay, wait, here's the thing. If you were to do another big MCU rewatch, do you think you would do the only thing I skipped was Hulk.
Yes, same.
Would this,
And only because it wasn't readily available, I probably would have watched it, honestly.
yeah, I mean, if it had been not even readily available, if it had been on Disney
Free.
Plus, not
Yes,
even
free.
no, not even for like specifically on Disney Plus. Like it had to have been in the sequence where I was
In the
going
queue?
in the queue. I would have watched. I mean, because like Spider-Man, like left the app, went out, purchased Spider-Man because I was like, I don't know where exactly to watch it. This is annoying. I'm just gonna buy this movie. Hulk would only rewatch if it was on Disney Plus. And even then, I don't know. But
so for a third round through, it would depend on how far away from this viewing that would happen, right? So if we're talking about like years from now,
yeah,
I feel like there's a part of my brain that would forget some of this and be like, oh, let's just binge it. It's fine. If we're talking about like at the end of this year, I want to like revisit some Marvel faves. Like, no, I'm not gonna rewatch this in 2021, 2022, to be honest. I'll pencil it in for 2023 as a maybe.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I could maybe, just because I could see myself doing a full rewatch as early as next year. Not that I will, like, envisioning myself, like knowing myself, I see that as a possibility. But I agree with you that there's no way I would rewatch this in 2021. I need to get at least a year of distance between me and this experience. I do see how, like, on a binge, in that context, like in the larger thing, it could be like less. In the same way that some of the MCU movies that I didn't like, I don't know, like when they were just sort of in the stream of things that were like washing over me, it was like, okay, like this is fine. But
yeah, I don't know. I say that, but the more I think about rewatching it, like I don't know if you saw my facial expression just getting more and more sour. I can't answer this question now. Need distance.
Yeah. We need time. We need time to heal and recover from what this did to us. Somebody in the chat asked about finishing WandaVision. Yes, WandaVision is the best thing in the MCU.
I agree.
It's the best thing in the MCU. I even that is a spot that I felt was previously held by Ragnarok, which, like, it's a movie I have legit seen probably a dozen times. Like, I fucking love that movie. But WandaVision is the best thing in the MCU. So you should absolutely finish it. Anything
Well,
else?
I don't
Any
know.
more
Happy
thoughts?
10 years. That's
Happy
that's
10
what I
years. Oh yeah.
that's what I want to focus on. Our
I'm like,
happy
anything
happy.
else? Any more with this? The bad thing. I want to be done.
No more.
But yeah, happy 10 years. We did it. 10 whole
Yep.
years of talking about media and stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I know. It is very weird. I keep like thinking about it and like being, I don't know, like taken aback by it being 10 years, but also very emotional about it being 10 years and like all the different silly things that we've done and great things and amazing things and all the ways we'll just randomly be like, hey, do you want to meet every Friday and talk about an episode of TV? And then we're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a real trip. I finally got a chance to read the thing that you wrote for the blog uh, late last night. But
Yeah.
it is particularly wild to think about the ways in which like one like just 10 like these specific 10 years. Like I turned 33 this month. I had just turned 23 when we started this blog, and so like
Yeah.
that particular stretch of 10 years is
Yes.
like wild. Like the different lives that I feel like I have lived, like the you know just sections of my life in the course of that decade. And it's a trip because of all the ways in which I cannot like extricate the experience of doing this thing
Right.
from all
Right.
of that growing up. Like this is like
A
there it's
huge yes.
weird. The thing that like I keep coming back to on this is that I think about the ways in which a lot of the like going through the recaps that like this isn't an like obvious to the outside, but like to me it's so clear the like the ways in which we're like reading things and watching TV shows and all of this stuff and like working out how to be a person, like working out the kind of people that we want to be in like in
Yep.
different ways, having just a lot of really big like it was a space that we worked out like really our thoughts on like big social stuff. I don't know, it's wild.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
very
and
wild.
even like outside of like the thematic stuff of media, just like also like I don't know, we really love both stories and we love media. So getting to see our taste evolve and just learning how to do this thing to be able to talk about media and really parse out our feelings and the way that our recaps have changed from like the first ones we posted that I don't even like to read back to like
They're
the stuff
so
we're posting now.
embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
So embarrassing.
Like,
It's
it's so
so embarrassing.
uncomfortable. It's rough on these like anniversary dates because like the inclination is to be like, oh, here's this thing we posted. I don't want you to look at the thing I posted 10 years ago.
Please don't look at the thing that we posted. That's probably why we always are like, here's this new thing we're doing. Happy 10 years.
Happy
Here's a
10
new
years. Here's
project. It's
something
so good.
else. Don't
Yeah.
look at 10 years ago. Let's look to the future.
Yeah. So just the growth in that area too, and just being able, I don't know, to really talk about media we like and don't like and all of that. It's really, really cool. And I love this project and I love you.
I love you too. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we are absolutely saying don't go back and catch up on the old stuff. Don't do it.
I feel like okay, what's the threshold here? Some of those early Buffy recaps, rough. But we hit our stride sometime in Buffy. The old like 50 Shades, I stand by most of
Okay,
that.
yeah. Old 50 Shades, yes. Yeah, Old 50 Shades, I feel like those are if you want that's the oldest content that I would recommend going back to is like the original 50 Shades post. And that was pretty far back because those started on Blogger.
Yes.
You started doing that before we switched to our like
Yes.
self-hosted WordPress situation. So
yeah.
So yes, that is pretty old stuff that does hold up. It's mostly stuff like it's like the original childhood trauma like book recaps. Those are the things that I'm like, I don't know. Which also for anybody who isn't a Buffy fan, that's Prophecy Girls. Prophecy Girls is the name of a Buffy episode. Childhood Trauma was the original name of the blog, and like that's also a Buffy reference. It's just it's which is casually out here like turning to Buffy for little names of things. But anyway, yeah.
It's tradition.
It's tradition. He always lives at the gate. So yeah, that's the only thing that we recommend you go back to. Nothing else. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, friends, for joining us. We're doing Loki for sure. We've been sort of like casually talking back and forth about the possibility of like we didn't take notes. Our chat with each other, our Discord chat is a bunch of notes, and we were sort of like tagging it too with searchable terms so that we could like revisit it to like talk about it. So probably at some point we'll give you some notice on Twitter, but at some point between now and the start of Loki, we might do another stream just to kind of like talk about MCU stuff more broadly. Because it's us, and like that's so many hours of content that we watched. We have to produce a content to go with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we had so many feelings, and I feel like they were different enough to our first watch through in those first podcasts that we were like, oh, we should talk about this. So
yes,
we should talk about this.
Yes. So at some point in the next couple weeks, that's the thing that will happen. Because I don't think Loki starts until like June 11th. I think it's the first Loki. Yes. So we have like a month and a half in which to, where we don't have a standing date to talk to each other on Fridays. So I'm sure we're going to hit a point where we're like, wait, we got to do the thing again.
Let's do some content and see each other's faces and invite our friends in the chat.
Yes, that's the one. Until then, thank you guys so much for joining us. We love all you guys so much. That's all. Goodbye.